Hi everyone, hope you're okay and having a fab day so far. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name's Alice, and if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. Today's video we're talking all about ways to help your mental health and just generally look after yourself throughout these current times. I don't know about where you guys live, but currently here in the UK we're a few days into our second lockdown for 2020. I think on one hand this one's going to be easier because we've been here before and we kind of know what to expect, but then it's also going to be harder for the same reason. We've been here before and we know that it's trying, and also now it's getting into the wintry months and we're getting shorter days, darker nights and mornings, and just generally the weather's not as good. And I think, I don't know about you, but for me it definitely affects my mood and it definitely impacts how I'm feeling if it's really wet and rainy and groggy outside. I thought today I'd share with you 5 things that I've been doing recently to look after myself, look after my mental and physical health, and just generally try and be in the best situation I can be within the circumstances. I'm not saying I've got it right, and it's definitely been trial and error, like I know for a lot of people. The first time around lockdown was very up and down and it was filled with lots of unknowns, and I think that was probably the most difficult thing for the most of us, was we just didn't know what was going to happen the next day and when it was all going to end. And we are in a similar situation this time round. I'm going to share with you 5 things that I learnt during the first lockdown that I wish I would have done sooner and that I'm 100% going to be doing this time round. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure to comment, like and subscribe, and let's just get going with the video. So my number one thing, and it's not really a tip, but it's just we all need to do this more, and it's be kinder to ourselves. I think first time around lockdown was a massive, for me personally, it was a massive like guilt trip, and I felt really bad if I wasn't doing something 24/7, and I applied an unnecessary amount of pressure on myself that I wouldn't have done on a regular basis. It's easy to beat ourselves up, there's no distractions, and we're just stuck with me, myself and I during these times. So I definitely think trying to actively be kinder, whether that's just cutting yourself a little bit of slack. I mean, being kind to yourself can look like anything really, but for me I definitely think it's not putting so much pressure on myself. I think it's as well kind of celebrating the small wins and celebrating the positives in each day and expressing gratitude and being grateful for what we do have rather than dwelling on what we don't have right now. I think that's a massive thing, and definitely something that I did not do earlier on in the year, and it did end up biting me in the backside because I would do a small thing or accomplish something and then instantly be looking at the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Living in the moment and appreciating what we have got and just being kinder to ourselves and being grateful for our situation, I think that will take us a long way. I'm definitely going to be doing that, and if you're not very kind to yourself, please make sure to be kinder. When lockdown came around first time around earlier on in March, I really struggled with my change of routine and not having my daily things that I did every single day and not having human contact with people from the outside world. I'm someone who thrives off of a routine, and I'm sure a lot of people can empathise with me. If you struggle with your mental health and you struggle with anxiety specifically, the way for me it kind of manifests itself is I like to plan. I'm a planner and I like to know what I'm doing 24/7. Lockdown takes that away from you. You can't be planning things. You can't be, to a certain degree, you can plan things, but you can't have everything mapped out, and there is a little bit of unpredictability. Your routine and structure is taken away and you have to create a new one, and I think this time round I'm almost excited to create that new routine and build new habits, be in a more positive headspace, use it as a good opportunity to create new habits, form new routines. I think it's kind of for me now a case of like out with the old, in with the new, and using this time where we don't have a choice to restructure our lives a little bit and use it as a positive and kind of put to one side those habits that I don't like that I had, refresh things a little bit and use it as a positive rather than a, oh god, how am I going to cope? I don't have my routine. I think it's about putting different things into place to help you cope with whatever you may be struggling with. I really started filming some routine videos that I'll be sharing on my channel that are kind of just giving you ideas and ways in which creating a routine when you don't have much going on, I think's hard. But I also think it's so vital. At the moment, if you don't have a 9-to-5 job, I think it can be even harder. And I've definitely experienced that it is hard to kind of find things to fill your days. And it's hard to think, well, what is the point? Because if I don't do that job now, I've got all day to do it, so I'll just do it later. And then you end up not doing that specific thing. This is a whole nother video, but I just basically wanted to say that creating a new routine is positive, and using these times where we don't have much choice on what we can be doing, we can also do so much in terms of use this time to work on yourself and just spend time being grateful and happy with what we do have and building on things that are well within your control. My third thing is just generally life advice is stay connected. I think we saw during the first lockdown and during just 2020 in general how important it is to check up on loved ones and check up on those friends that you haven't heard from in a while, people that you know that are living by themselves, making sure you have regular contact with them and just checking up on people and making sure they're okay. But that also goes for yourself, like reaching out to people if you're having a bad day, looking at your timetable and making sure you've got at least 2 or 3 calls scheduled in that week for just general chit chat and human contact in a different form. Although we can't be with people in the flesh, FaceTime and Messenger and WhatsApp, they're a step down, but they're just as good in terms of giving you that boost. I think 2020 has been a great year to show that I think a lot of people have had more contact with loved ones and just generally people. I'm someone that's always really done that because I've never lived with all my family and we've always been kind of dotted all over the place. So as a family, we've been used to having our relationships with our grandparents and our wider family over FaceTime. I think 2020 has really shown that everybody benefits from that. Even if you live not too far away from people, just the fact that you can't physically go and see them, having a phone call and having, I don't know, a wine night or a coffee morning or whatever it might be, just keeping your same habits but over the phone, over video call, I think that is really helpful. I just think staying in contact and staying connected to people is probably the number one. I probably should have put that first. Number 4 for me is take time to look after yourself. I mentioned previously in the earliest parts of this video how early stages of this year, lockdown number 1, I found it quite difficult to put myself first and not feel guilty, rubbish and put pressure on myself. I think looking after yourself is also not over consuming the media. I think looking after yourself is taking time out to breathe. The amount of people and the amount of influencers that promoted exercise earlier on this year was amazing, and the amount of free content you could consume by just having a YouTube account was ridiculous, and that was amazing. And the fact that people were willing to supply people with so much great content was amazing. But it also came with a pressure of every single person and their dog were doing some sort of workout video and some sort of challenge, and there was always something going on. And I think it was easy to think that you weren't doing anything. It was easy to put a pressure on yourself and to think, God, I should be doing all of that because everybody else is. So I think for me, second time round, we all need to make sure to just do what's good for us. For you, looking after yourself, it may be going for a run, it may be going for a workout, but it may also just be having a nice warm bath and reading a book, or cooking yourself a nice comforting, nutritious meal. It might be sitting down with family and just chatting about your day. It doesn't have to be being extreme and excessive. I think we all need to do what works for us rather than following the crowds. It takes some time to figure out what's good for us. Trial and error. If you take care of yourself and your mental and physical well-being, everything else is just going to flow. And for me, it's very much hand in hand. Like, you can't work on your physical health and neglect your mental health, and vice versa. Looking after yourself should be your number 1 priority anyway, but I think during these times where things are harder and we don't have our usual support systems and our usual rhythm and distractions, taking care of yourself physically and mentally should be your number 1 priority. My final thing is be appreciative of the small things and create things for yourself to look forward to. It's easy to kind of be sat here and dwelling on what's not going right and the fact that we feel like we're missing out on so much. We need to be grateful for what we have and for what we can control, and we can create our own excitement out of what we have at the moment. And I mentioned earlier, and so many people did it first lockdown, which were doing like the quizzes on Zoom and stuff like that. But you know, if you normally go to the pub on a Friday night, then keep that same thing going, but just do it over FaceTime or Zoom. And I know so many people did that first time round. I think it's about making the small things exciting, creating your own things to look forward to, because we're limited in what we can look forward to, if that makes any sense. I look at the chats that I have with my friends, and I also look at kind of making the weekends a little bit more special in terms of having a different routine on a weekend, because it is very easy for every day to kind of mix into one and to be kind of confused what day we are. That's happened to me a lot, like an embarrassing amount, and I'm sure a lot of you feel the same. Yeah, the main thing to remember is we're all going to get through this together. I'm going to try and create as much content as I can to provide a distraction for anybody, if anybody needs it out there. I know I've been watching lots of YouTube, and we've all been watching Netflix and just consuming more content than we probably normally would. But just remember to keep that content positive, that you're gaining something out of it and you're not leaving that YouTube video or Instagram story or TikTok feeling any worse about yourself than you started. I think I'll end that video here. It's kind of a short and sweet one, but it was just a few little tips and tricks to that you may have already thought of or you may already be doing, but if you haven't thought of them, then I thought I'd share them with you. I'll see you guys next time for a brand new video, and until then, stay safe and keep smiling. Salut!